Hello folks and welcome back to the Ruthless metal channel here on YouTube. And today we're going to rank the full discography of Nuclear Assault, the band that rose from the ashes after Dan Lilker was fired from Anthrax in the early 80s. And Danny then teamed up with Bramante, Glenn Evans and John Connelly, and thus Nuclear Assault was formed. And in these ranking all videos I'll talk a little bit about the albums, how they came to be, the history of it all, and some of my opinions on their full discography. But we're only ranking the full-length albums here, so Live at the Hammersmith Odeon or the Plague EP won't be included here, even if they are worth checking out as well, just to make it easier and more fair, I guess. But before we start the rank here, make sure that you guys smash that like button and subscribe if you aren't already subbed up, so that you won't miss out when I rank the full discography of other old school thrash metal bands. And now it's time to rank Nuclear Assault's full discography from the worst to the best, so let's do this. The worst Nuclear Assault album is in my opinion 2005's Third World Genocide, and this was Nuclear Assault's comeback album and their first in 12 years. And this album came out during the whole thrash revival that took place after the Thrash of the Titans benefit concert that took place in 2001. So we saw a lot of old bands starting to reunite again, and some albums during this era I really connected with, like Exodus Temple of the Damned, Hyrex New Age of Terror, and of course with some of the German bands as well. But there were of course some albums that I didn't care that much for, and unfortunately Third World Genocide is one of those. This was also the return of Dan Lilker, who didn't play on their 93 album Something Wicked. And Dan Lilker also brought with him Brutal Truth's guitarist Eric Burke to replace Anthony Bramante. And even if Third World Genocide on the superficial level still sounds like Nuclear Assault, you know, that punkish thrash with the social conscious themes and the rather nasal vocal delivery from John Connelly. But for me this album just didn't deliver. I don't think any of these songs are good enough to compete with the songs from the first three records, simply because the songwriting ain't interesting enough. And I'm also not the biggest fan when thrash bands wants to bring some humor into their records. And there are a few joke songs on this album, so it was a bit of a mixed bag for me. It was great to see Nuclear Assault back recording again, but the album didn't fully live up to the hype, so next. In fifth place we have Something Wicked from 1993, and I interviewed Glenn Evans, the band's drummer, in 2014, and he said that the band started to fall apart during this time. First Dan Lilker left to pursue his solo career, and then Anthony Bramante left after that. So they hired Dave DiPietro, an old bandmate from TT Quick, as the band's new guitarist. And then John Connelly grew tired of playing the guitar, and there were just a lot of issues going around at the time. So by the end of the world tour, the band folded. So it was certainly a tumultuous time when Something Wicked was recorded. But somehow Nuclear Assault pulled through and released their last record in 12 years. And we must also remember that this album came out in 93, so thrash was more or less a thing of the past when this album came out. And despite all of that, Something Wicked is still a thrash metal album. Maybe not as ferocious as those 80s records, but still thrashier than most albums in 93. But you can hear that the band was searching to find their sound and place with the changing of times, just like so many other thrash bands at the time. And this album reminds me a bit of Megadeth's Countdown to Extinction, since it's more of a mid-tempo record, and it has that somewhat dry guitar tone that became so popular in the early 90s. And the album kicks off with the title track Something Wicked, which they recorded a music video for, so it was the big hit from the record, and a pretty cool song also. Other songs worth checking out are Madness Descends, To Serve Man, and Chaos. And Something Wicked is a decent album, but it also lacks that youthful energy that the band thrived on during the 80s. Next. In fourth place we have Out of Order from 1991, and with the new decade the band's sound changed a bit, and a lot of people were disappointed with this record when it came out. So the Out of Order title seemed to be a good fit. And this was also the band's last album with the classic lineup of Connelly, Bramante, Lilker and Evans. But during this time, the band took a small break to let their lawyers work out a working record deal. And during that time, Lilker started Brutal Truth, Glenn Evans started CIA, and John Connelly started John Connelly Theory. So during this time, the side project started to take up more and more time for the Nuclear Assault members. And Out of Order kicks off with Sign in Blood and Fashion Junkie, two solid thrashers, but after that it kinda goes downhill for me. But towards the end of the record, Q Custodiat and Hypocrisy brings back some of the action. However, the album ends on a low note with the sweet cover Ballroom Blitz. Overall, I think that Something Wicked and Out of Order are a bit lackluster. There are like 2 or 3 cool songs on both, so I hold them as kinda average. Next. In third place we have Handle with Care from 1989. And if the post-80s material was a bit uneven, 80s Nuclear Assault was something else. This album came out in late 1989, and this was the band at the peak of their popularity. It even entered the Billboard Top 200, just like its predecessor Survive. So around this time it looked like Nuclear Assault could become a household name in metal circles. They toured with Testament and Savatage to promote the album, and they also recorded their first live album, Live at the Hammersmith Odeon, during the tour to promote this album. And Handle with Care is a great record, and once again it was produced by Randy Burns. So it had a beefier sound than Game Over, for example, and this album is also a good starting point if you're new to the band, due to the production values and the fact that a lot of the greatest songs are on this record, like New Song, Critical Mass, Inherited Hell, F Wake Up, When Freedom Dies and Trail of Tears. And the half-minute joke songs Mother's Day and Funky Noise I could have done without. But otherwise it's a solid thrash record, and some even claim that Nuclear Assault is a crossover act due to their subject matters, the short songs and the somewhat shouted vocals. And maybe so, but I think that Handle with Care is mainly a thrash record. So, next. In second place we have Survive from 1988. And this was the band's breakout album. It even entered the Billboard Top 200, propelled by the single Brainwashed. Survive is a ferocious record with some hardcore hints. Songs like Equal Rights, Fight to be Free and Brainwashed really set the tone. So this is somewhat of a soundtrack for times of unrest. It's also Nuclear Assault's best produced record in my opinion. Survive is certainly one of the best thrash records to come out of the East Coast, despite it ending with that weird Led Zeppelin cover, Good Times, Bad Times. But no matter what, only the strong will survive. Next. The number 1 Nuclear Assault album is in my opinion 1986 Game Over. And 1986 was such an insane year for thrash that Nuclear Assault's debut album got overlooked a bit, due to Rain in Blood, Peace Sells and Master of Puppets coming out the same year. Live, Suffer, Die, Sin, Cold Steel. The album kicks off in an unrelenting way, short and punkish songs straight to the point. Something they had in common with the other East Coast bands like Overkill, Whiplash and Anthrax for example. Those always had a punkier vibe than the Bay Area bands. But Nuclear Assault is even more in your face. And speaking of Anthrax, Nuclear Assault's bassist Dan Lilker played the bass on Anthrax's debut album Fistful of Metal, but I guess you all know that story by now. And Game Over has fast drums, blistering solos, nasal high-pitched vocals, and songs about radiation, death and horrors, so what's not to like about that? Sure, the production got beefier when Randy Burns took over the production, but I really do like Alex Pereala's work here. Even if the guitar sounds a bit clunky, but I kinda like that. And this is certainly not a Master of Puppets or anything like it. This is more like a mad dog that barks in your face. And this was the band's only full length on Combat Records. They did however record The Plague on Combat 2, before moving over to IRS Records. And speaking of the Plague EP, it's also an essential Nuclear Assault release. And I also love the artwork here by Ed Repka, one of the best album covers of all time, I think. And now it's time to check out my full Nuclear Assault rank, and I do hold the first 3 as masterpieces within the genre. The 2 early 90s records, Out of Order and Something Wicked, were alright, and then the comeback album, well, not so much. And interestingly enough, this ranking ended up in a chronological order, even if the top 3 albums are more or less interchangeable depending on what mood I'm in. But now I'm of course curious to hear about your thoughts, so feel free to post your favorite Nuclear Assault album down below, or rank their full discography if you're familiar with it. And hit that red subscribe button, don't worry, it won't go nuclear on you. And give the video a thumbs up so that the YouTube gods will start recommending some thrash instead of whatever they are pushing these days. And if you think that my videos are worth your while, please consider becoming a Patreon so that we can continue to grow this channel here in 2022, just like these fine gentlemen have done. And as always, I'm on Discord, Spotify and Facebook if you want to join the legions. And that's it folks, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye bye.